It's always so fun to see everybody's names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll give everybody a second to get all connected here. Start seeing people pop up. It's the best time.
Yes.
Oh, I think mine always shows up as fasted when.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to see you all here. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
How do we turn the camera on?
You need to turn the camera on. You go down to the bottom where it says share video. You can click on that.
Looks like a few people are still trying to join.
Yeah.
There they are. They're popping up.
Hello.
There we go. Well, hello, everyone. We can go ahead and get all set up now. My name is Sarah Rathbun. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at Dry Creek Vineyard. I just wanted to welcome you all. It's so good to see so many familiar names here popping up. I just wanted to go over a few little housekeeping items. First, we're going to keep everybody on mute for this for now, just so we can avoid any feedback or any kind of side conversations that might be going on, so we can all just really focus on this delicious wine and cheese experience that we're about to have. So please use the chat button. It's right down at the bottom of your screen, right between share screen and participants. That way you can ask the questions and we'll make sure that we can address them while we're here. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Kim Stair-Wallace, the president of Dry Creek Vineyard.
Hi, everybody. I see some familiar names and a couple of familiar faces, and I'm so excited that we're doing this today. This is a first for us, and hopefully not a last. And anyway, I'm just really delighted. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. One of the things that I've been doing a lot of virtual tastings, and I've even done virtual wine dinners, but I never get to eat. And today I have this beautiful platter of cheeses in front of me. And of course, I've got the 4 wines, and I am looking forward to this. As most of you know, we are a family-owned business in our almost 50 years now. It's quite astonishing. And we are a family-owned historic winery at that. And there's so much symbiotic, really a symbiotic nature between Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company and Jill and my new BFF and myself. So I want to just share a little bit about why we're doing this. Well, first of all, Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company is, like us, a family-owned company. And that's a very rare situation in the cheese company. I'd like to introduce Jill Giacomini Bash. Jill, where are you? One of the things.
I'm right here.
There she is. And Jill and her 3 sisters, run the cheese company. They actually started it in the year 2000, but her parents bought the property back in 1959, I think. Isn't that right, Jill?
Correct. Yep.
We grew up on the family farm, and kind of similar to me, I grew up here on the family farm, but we both were encouraged by our parents to pursue other careers. And so we left the family farm and did our own thing, but we similarly got lured back to joining our family businesses. So like Dry Creek Vineyard, Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company is a multi-generational company. They are an artisanal and passionate producers of some of the best cheeses in America. One of the things that I really admire about their company is that they're female-owned. So Jill's dad, just like my dad, my dad had 2 daughters. Jill's dad had 4 daughters, and all 4 of the girls, I should say, all 3 of Jill's sisters have come back to help work on the family property. So we have that in common. Another thing that we have in common is a true commitment to sustainable farming and responsible farming. And this is something that's ingrained in our blood here at Dry Creek Vineyard. It goes back many, many decades. Certainly is nothing new for Dry Creek Vineyard, and it's very much ingrained in Jill's family as well. And we share that in common. The other thing that I was really impressed with, and I think this is something that you might not know about the Reyes cheese folks, is they were really, I think, Jill, weren't you also kind of a pioneer in the cheese movement? Even though you started in 2000, but you were the first to produce the original blue, which was California's first, and really one of the very first to start an artisanal cheese company. And of course today, yeah, there are a lot of artisanal cheese companies, just like, yeah, there are a lot of wineries. But you know what? we are both, I think, at the very top of our game in the sense that we're really, truly committed to quality. We both share a passion for that. We both share a passion for never compromising on the ingredients that go into our, in her case, cheese, in my case, wine. And I think one of the things that I feel like we most share is a similar philosophy, although it's a little different, and that is that they believe that great cheese is made in pastures. And of course, here at Dry Creek Vineyard, we believe great wines are made in the vineyards. And so if you think about it, that's a real, there's a synergy there. And even though our terroirs are a little bit different, so Jill is located in south of here, just outside of the little town of Reyes. And of course, we're here in Healdsburg in northern Sonoma County. She's in southern Sonoma County. But we are both very heavily influenced by the Pacific Ocean and the marine climate and the cooling effect of the fog. And so I find that that's a very interesting kind of, synergy that we both have. But there is something very different between Jill and I. So Jill eats cheese every day. I drink wine every day. So maybe after this today, maybe I'll start eating cheese every day, and Jill will start drinking wine every day. Anyway,
Kim, they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, I'll tell you what, I need to keep you supplied, and you need to keep me supplied.
That's right. Deal.
So anyway, this tasting is going to be a wonderful one. I think what I'll do is let Jill tell a little bit more about her family and their cheese making process, because we all want to learn about cheese, and then we'll maybe get into the actual tasting. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds great.
Okay.
If we can we take a sip and toast this crowd here on Thursday afternoon? And
that's a good idea. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah,
Cheers.
I love it. We got to wet our whistle, right?
Absolutely.
Well, first off, a huge thank you to Dry Creek Vineyards, to Kim and to Robert for kind of establishing this relationship, to Sarah for putting it all together. I really just want to say thank you for including us, because we've actually been partnering for different types of events, both on the cheese and the wine side at both locations for, I think we figured 4 or 5 years now. But this is our first, I guess this is the new world or our new reality, where we are now doing virtual events together. And while there is a time and place for them, and I'm glad that the virtual experiences are here, nothing does replace being together in person. So I can't wait till all of us can come together and do something similar as this, but live at either the vineyard or out at the farm in Point Reyes. So.
Well, we were actually working. Remember, we had plans to do a wine club, cheese tasting and luncheon at your place, and I think we had that planned for some time this summer, and we actually had to obviously cancel it, but we will do it.
We will, we promise. So I just want to also acknowledge that we have Nikki Gruss, who is our lead hospitality coordinator. She's also on this call, or this experience, the Zoom tasting right now, so she can also might be chiming in with some answers to some questions, and specifically about how you can come and visit us at the farm, hopefully very, very soon. So there's Nikki.
Hi, everyone.
We're not together, actually, so that's why I wanted just to point her out. So yes, my mom and dad bought the farm in 1959, and it was a small working dairy when they purchased it. And my dad had grown up in Point Reyes in the region on his father's dairy farm, and that's where he grew his love for the community and agriculture, and knew he wanted to be a dairyman when he grew up. And so off to Davis he went, and he got his ag science degree. He met my mom along the way, and then they came back to the community, and my grandfather helped them purchase our property, which is we're about 3 miles north of the town of Point Reyes, also 3 miles north of what we called the home ranch, my grandfather's farm, where my dad grew up. And they purchased that farm in 1959, and it became their life's work, farming sustainably, well before, the whole concept of organic farming or farming, with integrity and farming to give back to the land. Before that was, even a trend, in anyone's mind. That was the way my father had been taught by his father, and it was really for the sole purpose of the only way that the land itself is going to pay dividends through profits, really, through great quality milk coming from the healthiest of animals, is to be a steward of that land, to really care for it with attention and dedication and commitment. And that's really what became the focus of my father's, life's work. Very small staff through the years. My mom, was raising the kids, 4 girls, as Kim said, and doing the books and, of course, being his voice of reason behind the scenes. But my dad was really at the forefront. And it was just a very traditional sized dairy farm. On the average, over the first 40 years of the operation, they were milking about 300 to 350 cows on a daily basis, selling all of the milk, seeing it get trucked away every morning by Clover, what was Clover Stornetta at the time, but now the Clover Sonoma family of milk processors, and that, was gratifying to my father, because he knew he was taking care of the land. He was raising these really healthy animals. He was winning awards left and right for the quality of the milk that he was producing. But something was missing. And I think it was in seeing the fruit of his labor, the fluid milk trucked away every morning. He kind of would sit there and think, man, I'm not getting any recognition out there in the marketplace for this hard work, for this great quality milk. I would love to produce a branded product myself to offer to Bay Area consumers that really would represent, this great quality milk, the regionality of it coming from Point Reyes, our family legacy in agriculture. And he just never really had the time or the resources to do it. And so he jokingly says, even today at almost 83 years old, that's why I had 4 daughters. And it was in the late 90s that my sisters and I should back up and tell you, we were not your typical farm kids. We were not very interested in the dairy growing up. And that was, our mom pushed us away. She really was very focused on the fact that she was not going to raise us with the burden sitting on our shoulders that we had to become next generation farmers, that we had to either go away to college or not go away, but just assume the responsibilities of taking care of the dairy. She wanted us, she wanted just us to be free to pursue whatever path was of our interest. And so that included, of course, college, and then further education and travel, and then settling down in business careers. And wouldn't you know that the skill sets and the tracks of business that we all followed, one in finance and investments, one in wine sales, one owned a restaurant with her husband, so she had a culinary business background, and my background was in marketing and advertising. So when you look at all of those areas of expertise that we were developing, and the fact that we shared this entrepreneurial spirit, watching our parents develop this successful dairy farm growing up, it was kind of like the perfect mix. So when they called us around the table, in I think it was late 1997, drinking many glasses of wine, of course, and they said, okay, it's time to make a decision. And we're like, decision about what? And we were I was actually living in Seattle at the time. I had a sister living in Portland. We were all like really happy and settled in our young adult lives, some starting to raise children, some just focusing on their career. And anyway, long story short, they said, we're thinking about retiring, and that means selling the farm. And I think, mic drop, right? It was like, selling the farm? What are you talking about? We love the farm. We'd love to come back to the farm. We appreciate the farm. It's beautiful. It's part of our family. Point Reyes is where we grew up. And they said, well, there's another option, and that is you come back to the farm and, we transition the business over to you. And even though you've never been interested in dairying yourselves, maybe we can diversify together as a team and come up with a branded product that could sustain all of us. And we're like, oh, okay, we can use our business acumen. We can learn from them. We can also, for me specifically, it was going to be about, creating a little bit of a flexibility in my life, because I was in Silicon Valley and working ridiculous hours. My husband and I were thinking about starting a family. It's like, how is that going to happen? So long story short, again, the timing was right for all of us. We were really interested in kind of, starting a new business together, working alongside of each other, transitioning that historical legacy of so much knowledge in agriculture in the community and farming responsibly over to us with them at our side. And the answer for us to make it all happen was cheese. So we saw that there was this burgeoning artisan cheese movement in the US, so we're about 30 years as an industry behind the California wine industry. So it was very young. There was very few, I always like to attribute them as the pioneers in artisan cheese that had been established before us. And I'm talking about Cowgirl Creamery, Peg and Sue. I'm talking about Laura Chanel, the folks at Redwood Hill Farms, which was owned by Jennifer Bice, and Mary Keene up at Humboldt County, who makes Humboldt Fog. Her company is called Cypress Grove. But all these women gathered around us and they said, we will mentor you. We will take care of you. We will guide you into business. And we couldn't turn away that offer. I mean, and that's really how it all started, that these amazing, astute business women, some that the Cowgirls had only been in business for about 3 years at this time, but they said, we know you're making great quality milk. You've got the core raw ingredient right there on the farm. You've got the climate, you've got the quality animals and the attention to care and sustainability. We're going to take you under our wing and help you guys get established. And 2.5 years later, we opened the company with our first make of Point Reyes Original Blue, and that was in August of 2000. So this is a big year for us, a big summer for us. Despite how awful 2020 has been, we're proceeding with the second half of the year as the start of our celebratory anniversary, and we're really excited that it's all going to turn for us come August 1st, right? We're celebrating 20 years in cheese. Last year, we celebrated 60 years on the farm. We now have 7 nationally distributed cheeses in our product line. We actually just launched a brand new cheese yesterday on our website, which is really exciting, very different from everything else that we produce. And we're working together, and we haven't killed each other yet. My oldest sister's the smart one. She retired, so she's no longer in the business, but I do co-own it with Diana and Lynn, and together we act as co-CEOs. So there you go.
That's a wonderful story, Jill, and it really, it gives me goosebumps because there are a lot of similarities. And, I think that as women leaders and as women pioneers and as the people that are carrying on the legacy of our families, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility and a tremendous amount of passion that goes into that. And, I know everybody who's joined us today really appreciates that. I mean, that's just something I think we can all agree on and celebrate that. We don't want to live in a world where everything is owned by a big giant corporation and everything we eat, whether it's cheese or everything we drink, whether it's wine, is, some mass marketed, impersonal, inauthentic product. So if nothing else today, I hope that's the message everybody hears, that these are, that we both have, really a special family businesses. So let's get right into the cheese though, because I'm starting to get hungry. And
That's great.
Our lovely Ashley here at the winery created this beautiful cheese platter for me. I wish you all could see it. It looks like something out of a magazine. And Jill, you'd be very proud of it.
I love it.
Impressed. So I'm going to take off my wax paper. Should we just start with maybe a little bit about the wine, and then you can talk about the
Toma? Why don't you go first?
Okay. I hate to upset it. I mean, I even have flowers on my cheese. Okay, so the first wine we're going to taste is the Marinesse. And as you may know, we are passionate about Sauvignon Blanc here at the winery. My father was the first to plant the varietal back in 1972. And, all of these years later, we truly are a specialist in Sauvignon Blanc, and we make many different styles. And the Marinesse is something that I'm really proud of because it really represents kind of my vision and my husband's vision for sort of the next generation of Sauvignon Blancs here at Dry Creek Vineyard. And it celebrates, not only kind of the legacy of what Dad started, but sort of a very forward thinking vision towards Sauvignon Blanc. And it was a wine that I dreamed about making for really a long time. In fact, I actually trademarked the name the Marinesse a good number of years before we actually even came up with the final blend. So we spent number of years tasting different Bordeaux style blends of Sauvignon Blanc. So what I want to tell you is that this is unlike our Loire inspired Sauvignon Blancs. So for example, unlike the Fumé Blanc or the Dry Creek Valley Sauvignon Blanc and even some of the others, this is really more of a Bordelaise approach in that it is not 100% Sauvignon Blanc. It's got 5% Bordelais, Muscadelle de Bordelaise, which is a very obscure variety grown in Bordeaux, France, but not grown here, and 5% Semillon. So that in itself makes it a classic Bordeaux blend, or you could also call it a classic white Meritage, because of course Meritage is the term we use to classify wines blended in the Bordeaux tradition. And also, unlike some of our other Sauvignon Blancs, this tends to have a little bit broader mouthfeel, a little bit more richness, a little bit more creamy texture, in part from those other two selections, the Semillon and the Muscadelle de Bordelaise, but in large part because we tend to let the grapes ripen a little more, so it's picked at a little bit higher sugar. It is 100% Dry Creek Valley, but also because of the fact that there's actually a little bit of a barrel influence in this wine. Many of you know our winemaker, Tim Bell, who joined me in, let's see, 2011 here. Gosh, that's almost 10 years. And he started playing around with a little bit of barrel fermentation, actually in chestnut and acacia barrels. And that was some years back. I guess it's probably been, Sarah, how many years ago was that? I always forget, 3 or 4 years ago or something. And we loved the results. And so it's very important for me that our wines not be perceived as oaky. I just don't like wines that are overly oaky, unbalanced. I want the fruit to come through. I want the wine to be expressive of the varietal, which I think this wine is. But just a little bit of that chestnut and acacia adds, again, a little creaminess, a little texture, a little more viscosity. And so the reason why we took the Marinus as our white wine to pair with the Toma is because of that richness that we thought would be really nice with this particular cheese. I know, Robert, you were telling me earlier today, by the way, everybody, Robert, in my screen, he's on the top in the middle. I don't know where he is on everyone else's screen, but if you haven't met him, he's our Director of Hospitality and Retail Sales, and he also is known as the cheesemonger here. But there's a ripeness and a roundness to this wine that sort of is similar to the Toma, and we felt it would be kind of a good sort of just a nice blend or a nice synergy between that richer, creamier style of cheese as with the wine. So that's what I have to say about the wine. How about you, Jill? Tell us about the Toma. And by the way, we sell all these wines in the tasting room, and this is, I think, one of our best sellers. Right, Jill? Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're just about sold out. Like we got what went out in these packs, and we got about 12 bottles left. So I was actually worried about this tasting today. At a second, I shot up from my desk and went, "Oh, I got to make sure I grab a bottle for us to be able to taste that tonight." So,
yeah.
Robert, since you kind of came up with this pairing, do you want to talk about what you liked about it before I start explaining to people what they're tasting?
Sure. So in wine and food pairing, there's pretty much two different types of things. There's ideas of sameness and then of opposite. So opposite, a good example would be like a dessert wine or a port wine with like a dark chocolate or something like that. They're two things that don't exactly go together. They're sort of opposite of one another, but when you put them together, they're seamless. And then there's the combination of sameness, and that's what we have here with the Marinus and the Toma. The Toma has a really wonderful, subtle creaminess across the palate. And what you find with the Marinus is you've got those Sauvignon Blanc aromatics and flavor profiles, but also because of there being a little bit of wood integration there, it's softer on the palate. So we get some wonderful fruit flavors that come through. And if you taste the cheese first and then drink the wine, you get a real creaminess across the palate, and the acidity on the Marinus just kind of lightly frames that. And I just think this is a wonderful intro pairing to any kind of group gathering you were to have together. This is going to go really nicely. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, you said it perfectly, I think. So Toma is kind of our farmer's cheese. It's our table cheese. It's our everyday snacking cheese. We introduced it in 2010. It was the second big release after the first 10 years of the company only making and selling our classic blue cheese, original blue. And so the marketplace was kind of clamoring for the next, home run from us. And there was a lot of pressure on our cheesemaker. His name is Kuba Hemmerling. And he had come on board just a year prior. So he had spent that first year kind of understanding the flavor components of our milk and learning our equipment and understanding our aging rooms and climate outside and, temperature and humidity inside. And he's like, gosh, I really want to do just a cheese that showcases the flavor of the milk because it's so incredible here coming from this farm. And we said, well, we want a cheese that everybody will love. We want a cheese that just becomes like just an everyday, whether breakfast, lunch, or dinner. We would say, the Point Reyes cheese, the cheese of Point Reyes that people associate with the community. And what we came up with was Toma. And this is based on a Dutch recipe. So it uses some Dutch culture. So it presents very similar to a young Gouda or a very traditional Havarti. What is kind of just like the hook for it is the butter notes. You can smell them if you give it a whiff, and then when you taste it, you're just hit by rich, creamery butter. And it's addictive, but what prevents it from becoming overly rich and a butter bomb where your palate would fatigue after the third or fourth bite is that there's a little acidic tang that hits you in the finish with Toma. And that comes from truly the craftsmanship of our cheese making team, in that they are able to capture the flavor of the pastures that comes through in the milk in every single make of this cheese. So that we actually refer to it as a grassy tang finish with Toma.
Grassy tang. So yes. we often refer to our Sauvignon Blancs as having a grassy, tangy finish.
Well, what I love is I have a sip of this wine and then a bite of the cheese, another sip of the wine, and that, yes, you've got the complementary richness coming from both, but that little tang in the finish is what just creates this like third level of tasting that is just fantastic. I mean, I could eat this cheese and drink this wine all afternoon long, not complain at all.
Now, why do you call it Toma? What does the name come from?
Toma means, so my family is half Italian and half Portuguese. So on my father's side, my main name is Giacomini. We're from the northern Swiss border region of Italy, near the Valmagia. And then my mother's family is 100% Portuguese. And funny that I bring that up now because our brand new cheese that we announced, that we launched yesterday is a nod to that side of the family. But Toma means wheel of cheese made by the farmer in Italian.
Okay.
And because it is our farmer's cheese, we thought, what a perfect name. I mean, and in Italy, you'll see Toma associated with a town or a community's name. So for us, it was just perfect that it would be, Point Reyes Toma is the village cheese of Point Reyes in West Marin.
What strikes me is this pairing is sort of so simple, but when you said addictive, it actually kind of is. There's something about this that, I keep going back and I'm having another nibble, another sip, and sometimes those very simple flavors are really the most exciting. You don't have to have something that rips your mouth out or just is crazy, wacko, weird. And I think this is, there's sort of almost like an umami effect with this cheese and this wine that's kind of I don't know. I really like it. I think it was a really good. I will give Robert the credit. I don't know who decided to do this, but I remember when I took the cheese home and tasted it a while ago, I loved it. But whoever decided gets an attaboy from me. I hope how about a thumbs up or sideways, or maybe it's okay to say you don't like the pairing too. We're all learning together. I see a lot of thumbs up. That's good. That's good. Well,
by the way, we want this to be interactive, so. Raise your hand and we can unmute you, or I don't know if you can unmute yourself, but ask questions or put them into the chat window and tell us what it is you like. Because by the time we're done, I want everybody to taste all the cheeses with all the wines. So we can go do a lot of mix and matching.
Good thing. Sarah, I'm going to make you're going to be in charge of the muting, demuting and muting.
I'm on it.
All right, so Chardonnay. So the next wine is our Estate Block Chardonnay, Estate Block 10 Chardonnay, excuse me. Again, one of our really, really special wines here at Dry Creek Vineyard. And for those of you who've been part of our family winery, like I know Mike Martin, I see you there, and I think I see Jean and other folks. You know the transformation we've gone through here with Chardonnay, and I won't bore you with all the details, but we have shifted to a very small amount of very exclusive, very high quality Chardonnay from 100% Russian River Valley Estate Vineyard that we call Estate Block 10. And this is a wine that I would say maybe is most similar to Jill's cows in that this is a vineyard that sits right in, or these are grapes that sit right in the middle of a vineyard that is heavily fog influenced. So when I think about Jill's cows basking in the fog, in the early morning fog each day, this is a photograph of the vineyard, and you can see the fog is just burning off. And it's a beautiful vineyard. But anyway, it's our Russian River Chardonnay. We whole cluster press this. It is aged in small French oak casks, and it's partially malolactic fermentation, which is where we get a little bit, tiny amount of that kind of creamy butteriness. But I think one of the things I love about this is there's a beautiful baked apple pear-like aromatic in terms of the fruit characteristics, and maybe a little bit of a hazelnut or nuttiness, little bit of toastiness, but very, very subtly. This is not a heavily oaked wine, and of course you guys are all Dry Creek Vineyard fans, and so we're not huge, we don't like heavily over oaked wines. We like wines that express the terroir, that are varietal defining, that reflect our region, and that really let the grape shine through. And so this was a wine that we chose to pair with the Gouda. Let me see where that is. The aged Gouda over here. And it's interesting because I was in Holland last year on a wine club cruise, and we visited a number of cheesemakers and tasted all kinds of different Goudas, and I sort of fell in love with Gouda. But we didn't have our Chardonnay with us, of course. So this will be really fun to taste together. And I know that Robert was recommending that we take a little bite of the almonds that I think you all received in your assortment. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Take a little bite of the almond, and then maybe a little bite of the cheese, and then maybe a little sip of the Chardonnay, and kind of do a little sort of dance on your palate with those three components. Well, first of all, the almonds are divine.
So we have a culinary and educational center. Nikki runs the front of the house, and then we have an executive chef named Jennifer Luttrell. She runs the back of the house. We invite you all to come as soon as we reopen, to come experience tours, tastings, culinary events with us there. But we do produce out of that kitchen several house-made accompaniments that we think are best paired with our cheeses. And these are roasted maple pepper almonds. Oh
my gosh, they're so good, Jill.
They're so good, I know. And this is a great little trio. I was really happy with the Gouda and the wine alone, but then when you add the almond, it really just all the nuttiness of the wine, I think you referred to it as hazelnut, really is just lifted. I love it. And then have another bite of the cheese, and it's great. But the Gouda, for us, it's one of our library cheeses, so meaning that it's extra aged and compared to all of our other products in our product line. And we have very little of it. So when we have it, available for release, it just kind of becomes a special celebratory occasion, in the company and then for our customer base.
Jill, how long would that mean when you say extra age? Like how long is extra?
So we age it. You're going to find most fine Goudas are aged a minimum of 12 months. And then upwards from there. And then when they get into the 2-year mark, well, they're very expensive, and they can be very good. They can almost, they lose so much moisture that they can almost have an acidicness, a burn in the finish. And that was something we wanted to avoid. So we're right in the sweet spot, around 18 months for our Gouda. We want it to still be creamy in texture, so it would kind of melt on your tongue, but yet we want that effect of the crystallized proteins those little crunchies. I call them flavor pops that kind of explode in the back of your mouth with every bite, and that is a sign of a very well-aged Gouda. But there's a fine balance where you still are retaining enough moisture in the cheese so that it's a creamier Gouda. It's not so hard that it starts to kind of create, like I said, that sharpness in the finish that is actually very difficult to pair with wine. So this, by keeping it a little bit younger and in that sweet spot of around 18 months, it becomes actually a perfect complement to mini wine styles. And I typically love it with a sweeter wine. I really love it with dessert wines. But this Chardonnay is just fantastic with it. So great call, Robert.
Yeah, no, this is delicious. And my experience with Goudas, has been all over the board, but I remember when we were in Amsterdam, some of them are extremely sharp and they almost make your mouth itch.
Yeah, you get that feeling back here where you got to pucker. Yeah.
And I love this because I think it's just a little bit more mild and maybe a little bit, it's just a little bit more of an elegant style, really. And it's sort of similar to the wine.
Very, very much like the wine. They're very well balanced.
So Kent was saying that he's kind of going out of the box and he's actually drinking the 2009 Mariner with the Gouda.
Oh, I bet. Well, I'm going to do that. I'll do that at the end after we go back, but I bet it's fantastic.
Definitely save some of the Gouda, yes, for the reds.
Right.
Yeah, but he gets the brownie notes of the 2009.
I know.
Not even the 2017.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you say that. 2009. Well, my gosh. Why aren't we at his house? Okay, so then the third wine is our one of our Zinfandels, the Farmhouse Single Vineyard Zinfandel. And of course, next weekend, everybody, is 4th of July, right? And so if there's not any better wine to drink on 4th of July, I don't know what is. Zinfandel truly is America's heritage grape, and as we're all toasting to our country's birthday and celebrating that fact, we should definitely be drinking Zinfandel. And I think having some of these yummy cheeses would be a perfect way to spend next Saturday afternoon. So this is going to be great. Anyway, the Farmhouse Zinfandel is also from our estate vineyard in Russian River Valley. It's the only 100% Russian River Valley Zinfandel that we produce. And I love this Zinfandel. It is actually a heritage clone Zinfandel. So what that means is we, as you all probably know, we pioneered the collection of old vine budwood from the very oldest vineyard in the area and used that to graft onto rootstock in a new vineyard. Our new vineyards are in a new vineyard that is actually right in front of my house next door to the winery here. And we were trying to I guess, preserve the legacy of and flavor and aromatics of old vine Zinfandel in a new planting before all those fabulous old vines are torn out. Well, we had quite a bit of success, and so when we had the opportunity to buy our vineyard in Russian River, it was a piece of ground, it wasn't a vineyard, we developed it, and we call it Farmhouse Vineyard, also known as DCV 8, so it was the 8th vineyard in our acquisition or development of different vineyards over the many years of our being in business. But anyway, we chose to use the heritage clone propagation technique. So it is technically a heritage clone Zinfandel, although we call it Farmhouse Vineyard. It is 95% Zinfandel and a little bit of Petit Syrah, 5%, so quite a bit less than some of our other Zinfandels. And this, to me, is one of those Zinfandels that's just all pure Zinfandel fruit, like fresh raspberry and fresh boysenberry. And, it has that, a little bit of that spiciness, but this is a little bit more of an elegant style Zinfandel and really pure fruit driven. Sorry, let me just take a little sip here. I'm getting a little bit of white pepper. I am getting a little bit of a, what is that spice? Coriander. But this is, I think, one of our most sort of elegant, well-structured Zinfandels. It's quite, if you're familiar with, like, for example, Beeson Ranch, this is a very different style of Zinfandel. And in pairing this, we chose to pair it, actually, again, I'll credit Robert here, because I think Robert had fun. Robert, you've had fun. This is a hard job. Wasn't this hard? What a hard job.
It's the best homework project I have had in months. So my wife and I got to sit around our kitchen with, by the way, Jill and Point Reyes, I just have to say, this is just such a wonderful box of cheese and accoutrement that you've put together here. I actually sent this to my mother, you know, much like what we're doing now. I wasn't able to be with my mom for Mother's Day, and I wanted to get her something wonderful and something fun. And I actually sent her this box from Point Reyes, which then, you know, I think got us all thinking and talking about the wine pairings that we're already doing. But yeah, so what my wife and I did, since there's all these other things in this box, we took some of the salami. I took a little bit of the fig that's included in your box, and then I took the original blue and put it all together and made one bite, you know, that looked a little like this. And then I took that with the farmhouse Zinfandel, and there's just great sort of the salumi and the cheese give it a tanginess and a spice. The fig gives it a little sweetness, and then that's kind of the combination that you find in the Zinfandel. The farmhouse Zinfandel is very fruit forward, yet it's got great Zinfandel spice and tannin to it. And so I just really thought that that was a very fun, really complex pairing. And here again, you know, thanks, Kim, for making me go home and do the hard work. It's
You're a team player. Seriously, that is delicious, everybody. So if you didn't hear that, grab the fig, put it on top of the salami, take a little slice of the original blue, not the bay blue, but the original, and just pop it in your mouth all together, and then give a little sip of that Zinfandel. And man, that's fantastic. What do you think, Jill?
Well, I completely concur. When I was playing around here, and I think that all three of those components separately are really great with the wine as well. So no wonder together as a composed bite, you've got, you know, magic. I also really liked it with the bay blue, but if as a standalone cheese, original blue is the winner with this wine. Like you were talking about all the rich berry notes, and those are accompaniments that we often, you know, refer to as best pairings for original blue. But I just think that this is awesome. It's just a picnic, you know, waiting to happen.
From a texture standpoint, one of the things I like, so the original blue is a little creamier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Zinfandel seems to kind of just, it's kind of like a laser, you know, kind of cutting through that sort of, that creamy texture. And I just love that. There's just something about, I don't know, there's like a, I don't want to say a sharpness, but the wine sort of pair, it's like they have different texture levels, and yet they blend together beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, your Zins, the old vine, has been a favorite of mine for years since we first started working together. And I always bring it out whenever we have burgers, because it is just, it's the perfect, with the original blue on top of the melted into the burger at the finish. With this wine is like just perfect. Yeah, definitely try it with the bay blue. Nikki, did you want to add, because you serve this wine a lot? Our guests love this wine.
Our guests do. It whether it's just enjoying it during a cheese tasting or when we get to serve it at some of our dinners that we host monthly, not currently, but we'll get back to them. It's a huge hit. It's just an easy favorite to go to. So we lean on it a lot. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
So yummy. It's just delicious.
Great.
So tell us about the blue cheese process, because I find that very
Sure. I'd like to talk about both blues at the same time. So if you give me a second here, I'll talk about both, and then we'll be set up to go back and forth with the final wine. You know, we launched the company, like I said, August of 2000. We made our first vat of Point Reyes Original Blue, and that's the last cheese that should be on your board. It's the cheese that we're most well known for. It's the whiter blue, and it's the one that we refer to as a rindeless blue. So you'll see that the bay blue has a little bit of a natural crust that we purposely formed during the aging process on the outside, where the original blue, we prevent that crust or rind from growing on the exterior of the wheels through a temperature and humidity filled environment, and also bagging the individual wheels to keep them very moist to the core. You know, they're very different, and a lot of people said, why did you come out with bay blue, which didn't come along until 2012. So 12 years later was when we expanded to the second blue. And we said, well, we've had 12 years of people saying, you know, I'm not a huge blue cheese lover. I mean, I can appreciate your story and I can appreciate that you make really great quality blue, but it's too strong, it's too pungent, or it's just not for me. And we knew that we would have, there was an opportunity to create a blue cheese that could almost like hook people in, could draw them into to become a blue cheese lover eventually. So Bay Blue was born, and we often refer to it as a gateway blue, because I can't tell you how many people we have converted to not just enjoying blue cheese, but loving it. And now they're big fans of Original Blue, the stronger, you know, older big sister variety in our lineup. But Bay Blue, in a nutshell, it's pasteurized. Original Blue is not. Original Blue is our one raw milk cheese that we produce. Bay Blue, like I said, has a natural rind or crust, and Original Blue does not. It is a rindless cheese. Bay Blue has a fudgy or dense texture. You kind of want to work it around your palate. You know, you really want to chew on it. And it's got a little bit of crystallization that really promote that process of just working it around your palate. And then the layers of flavor that you experience range from earthy and umami-ness to kind of like the mild blue mold pungency to a little bit of sourdough or brioche bread. And then the finish is sweet salted caramel. So you just like, there's all these, you know, complexities to the process of experiencing and enjoying the flavor. Where Original Blue is like the classic blue cheese, it hits you, you know, it's got a really, really creamy texture, almost like butter. I hope all of you followed the instructions and tempered your cheeses so that they are being served at the optimal, you know, room temp degree, so that the flavor and the fat really rises to the surface. And if you did that, what you're experiencing with Original Blue is the ability to put it on your tongue and it will just melt into your mouth. And that creaminess is almost a foil for the strength of the blue mold pungency. It's a classic blue made in the French style, classic French style. It's made very similar to a classic Roquefort, but it's obviously it's cow's milk, where Roquefort is sheep's milk. But the process is very similar, and then the resulting texture is very similar. Bay Blue is made in the style of a British Stilton. So if you're a fan of a fudgy, dense Stilton that's got a little bit of structure to the body, then you're gonna love Bay Blue. Bay Blue is much more mild in blue mold pungency, and Original Blue is stronger. Bay Blue's sweet finish is the hook. That's where people that didn't think they liked blue cheese at all try Bay Blue and go, oh my God, I'm like, you know, experiencing something I've never tried before. And before you know it, then they're working their way up to the stronger Original Blue. They're both great with wines. They're both great with all of the accompaniments in the box, you know, from the salami to just the figs, even the almonds. You know, you can bring out different notes in the complexity of the flavors by marrying them with the different accompaniments. And I don't want to forget that we include 2 boxes of rustic bakery in the box. We have the classic sourdough, which is a great plain cracker to go with anything. But then the artisan crisps, and these have tart cherry, cacao nib, and almond. That is a great sweetness to those of you that maybe still aren't in love with strong blue cheeses, to put some of the Original Blue or the Bay Blue on this cracker and mixed with the cherry notes and the cacao nibs. I mean, it just creates this third level flavor that, again, paired with the wines, just is fantastic. So definitely try it with the crackers.
Absolutely delicious. You should see my spot, everybody. I have a big mess. I'm actually going to get up and run to the tasting room and grab some paper towels or a towel, because I am making a big mess. But I could not. This is like my happy place. Cheese and wine is my happy place. And I mean, what could be better? Jill, you might, I don't know if you said it, but I think you should explain how the mold grows, because I find that fascinating. I'm going to be right back. Sure.
So blue cheese, you know, like I said, we make our cheese in kind of in the style of classic Roquefort from southern France, and but what is different in that we use the same strain of bacteria, blue mold bacteria, called Penicillium roqueforti. But there they will sprinkle depending upon the type of Roquefort that's being made, they will either sprinkle the bacteria onto the curds, or they will actually inoculate the finished wheels with the blue mold spores. We, however, we want that blue flavor throughout our wheels. And this goes for both a Bay Blue and Original Blue, even though the rest of the process is very different, including the cultures, the starter cultures. But in terms of the blue mold bacteria, we add a liquid form of the blue mold bacteria in with the liquid milk in the vat, because we want the flavor to be proficient throughout each and every wheel, whether or not there's a proficient aesthetic blue veining or blue pocketing. We want the flavor to be there. But that blue mold that then is inside, and it's not blue actually, it's very clear. So what you end up with on day 2 are finished white wheels. And you're like, okay, where's the blue mold? Well, you have to grow it. You have to activate it. You have to stimulate the growth of the blue veins. And you do that by introducing oxygen and humidity into the interior of the wheels. And so on about day 4, after the cheeses have really knitted together, the wheels are solid and they can be handled, and they've actually all gone through a hand salting process. We then punch the wheels with stainless steel needles on both sides. And what we're doing is we're introducing air passageways deep inside the wheels. And then we put the wheels into these warm, about 55 degrees or so, high humidity environments that then activate the aesthetic blue veining that we need to occur. And it grows the blue veins from the deep inside the wheels out to the exterior. And that's why, especially in Original Blue, you probably will see in your wedge like these stark, vertical lines. And that's exactly where that wheel got, that wedge got punched with a needle. It left an air tunnel, and the blue mold just shot from the inside, deep inside the wheel, all the way to the exterior. And the result is this beautiful, clear, straight blue line of blue mold and blue mold flavor. So we do that. We grow the blue veins in our curing stage, over about the course of 3 weeks or so. It's different by lot, it's different by cheese. And but what we have to do is then taste and evaluate a sample wheel from each batch that shows us that enough blue mold growth has occurred. But then we have to stunt that process, because we don't want the blue mold to take over the wheel. And we do that by either with Bay Blue, smoothing out all those air passageways on the exterior, so to kind of close down the tunnels. And then with Original Blue, we will bag the wheels individually to prevent the oxygen flow in and out of each cheese. So when the cheese goes to market, and in both cases, well, a Bay Blue is about 2.5 to 3 months typically in age before we release it. Original Blue is a little over 3, so 3 to 3.5 months for that cheese. We then take the cheese out of its aging environment, and we wrap it with the foil, and then it sends off to market. So if you ever receive a piece of our blue cheese, whether you purchased it at the grocery store, at a nice cheese shop, or you got it sent from us, and you open it and it doesn't look very blue, basically that blue mold bacteria has kind of gone dormant, between the cold chain of the distribution process, or it just got cut off from all oxygen in the packaging process. Don't worry, all you have to do is unwrap it, leave it out on the counter, again, let it come to room temperature, and you will see the cheese bloom and just become beautiful right before your eyes in the span of about 30 minutes.
Thank you for explaining that to people, because I know when I learned it, it was just fascinating. I mean, it's such a one of the big differences, of course, is that Jill they get to make their product ongoing, right? They're milking their cows daily and
every day,
where we get one chance per year, and it's called harvest, and it's one vintage. And if we don't get it right, we're out of luck till the next vintage. So anyway, well, let me just, I guess, did I talk about the Mariner? I don't think I did.
No, go ahead.
So the Mariner was the 4th wine, and I think this is the wine that the gentleman, was it Kevin or Kenny? I can't quite remember, who had the 09, and he was loving it with, was it the Gouda that you had, Kenny? I can't quite remember.
The 2009 Mariner with the Gouda. It was Kent.
You might want to just dive in and try that. But we were thinking that this was really kind of a match made in heaven with that Bay Blue, and with those crisps with the cherries, etc. And these I actually buy all the time at our little local market. It's one of my favorite crackers to serve But anyway, our Mariner is, of course, a classic Meritage, which is a Bordeaux style blend. And you know, at our winery, we've been advocates of blending since day one. We've actually never made a 100% Cabernet wine. And even when my dad was the winemaker from the first couple of years until the late 70s, he always made his red wines in a classic Bordeaux fashion. So this wine, our Mariner, was a wine that my husband Don and I dreamt of when we took over from Dad. And it was, you know, it was at that point, let's see, that would have been in the early 2000s. It seemed like such a monumental task, how to make a world-class Bordeaux-style blend. And it started with having the right vineyard, which we developed. We found a piece of property and developed a vineyard called the Endeavor Ranch. And we, of course, we planted Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot and Malbec and Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. And after, you know, many trials and tribulations, we came up with our first vintage of the Mariner, which was 2004, and I'm jealous that you have that 2009 because I don't have any in my cellar, but we're tasting the 2017 today, and this vintage has a little bit more Cabernet than the last previous vintages. It's actually 65% Cabernet, and I'm just looking here, and 16% Merlot. For a while there, our Mariner was edging around 55% Cabernet, and of course that's the beauty of this wine. It's the most artistic wine, I think, that probably Tim would tell you that he makes, because there's no particular blend or percentages that he has to hit. It's really what Mother Nature gives us. And so sometimes we want, you know, if we have a vintage where the Cabernet is really tannic, we'll add it, you know, we'll lower the Cabernet percentages and add more Merlot or a little Cabernet Franc or more Cabernet Franc to really perk up the aromatics in the nose. And anyway, I'm very proud of this wine. I love it. Obviously, it symbolizes my family's passion for sailing. That's why we call it the Mariner. And the label has that fabulous poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow that kind of embodies what we're all about here at Dry Creek Vineyard, and kind of the combination of, you know, Mother Nature and artistry and hard work and combining all those things together. But I think one of the reasons why I think this wine goes really well with this particular cheese, and probably the other cheeses, although I haven't done that yet, is, again, it's not an overpowering wine. It's a big, bold, rich wine, red wine, but it's balanced. It's got beautiful acidity. You know, and that's the key to any kind of food and wine pairing. I don't care whether you're trying to pair with cheese or you're trying to pair with, you know, shrimp, or you're trying to pair with whatever, Italian food. You have to have a good acidity in the wine so that you don't overpower the food. And so I happen to really like this pairing. Robert, I don't know, did you have something to add in terms of this? Because I know you put a lot of time into tasting the Mariner with a number of these cheeses as well.
Yeah, first, to go back to Kent's, I didn't even really think about the Mariner with the Gouda, and as we've been chatting here, I've been going back and forth with that, and that is a lovely pairing as well. I don't have the luxury, even at the winery, of having the 09 on me, so I am drinking the current vintage, the 2017, but I can imagine that 09 with a little bit of age on it, a little more complexity, and you're getting a little less fruit tones, and you're probably getting a little more kind of earthiness and softer tannins to it. I can only imagine that's a wonderful pairing. I'm enjoying the Gouda with the 2017. I guess really quick, I should just say, blue cheese is a very interesting thing. In my house is a house divided by these two cheeses. I am all about the original blue. That is my jam. That is what I love. I love big, very pungent, you know, lots of flavor, really expressive and creamy blue cheeses. And my wife is all about the Bay Blue, which I think is a bit more complex. It's got more nuance to it. It tends to feel a little more aged to me. What I liked about the Bay Blue with the Mariner, and this could totally be a wine geek thing, and if it is, please forgive me, but the Bay Blue has a creaminess and a real earthiness to it. And when I eat even just a piece of that cheese and let it melt on my palate, and then I go to the Mariner, and the Mariner made in that classic Meritage Bordeaux style, has a lot of fruit to it and a lot of structure to it and great tannin to it. But following on the heels of that blue cheese, introduces a little bit of an earthiness to it, which really reminds me of Bordeaux per se. So it's just a really fun wine cheese pairing that makes for an overall great complex taste on the palate. And yeah, here again, I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as me, because this has been the highlight of my week gearing up towards this. So.
Chris and Jean don't want to be outdone, so I'm going to spotlight them for a second, that they actually have the 2006 Mariner, right?
Nice.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
There you go.
You guys are the best.
Uh-huh.
Now, what was the first vintage? Was 06 or was it 04? What was the first?
2004.
04. So pretty close.
So actually, can you read, there should be the blend on the back of that 2006. Can you just share that with us?
Chris and Jean, I'm going to unmute you. Can you guys tell? Let's see. I'm asking to unmute. There we go.
Okay, so the blend on the back is 50% Cab Sauv, 32% Merlot, 8% Malbec, 6% Cab Franc, and 4% Petit Verdot.
And so you see, it's quite different than where we're at now, which has, you know, quite a bit, almost 2/3 of it is Cabernet. So that's really interesting. How's that holding up? That was.
It is very tasty,
fabulous.
especially with all the blue cheeses, but also with the Auda and everything else.
I'm so glad. You know, it's so funny. I'm always asked, I mean, it's probably my number one question is, how long should I age, you know, your wines? How long should I age your Cabernet? And of course, our standard sort of answer is somewhere between 7 to 10 years, or maybe 10 to 12 years for something like the Mariner. And it's always so variable, but I love hearing, you know, so that wine is 2006, so that's, well, so that's 11 vintages. So we're 13 vintages ago, right? Is that right? 14 vintages ago.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I did have a bottle of the 2004 not that long ago, and it's delicious. So I'm pleased to hear you have it and that it's showing well. I think just really quickly, I think we should talk about the little secret sauce here, the little secret spread.
No.
And I'd love to open it up to everybody. So I don't know where it is on your plate, but we have this wonderful spread that Jill and her sisters produce, and she calls it the original blue date spread. And I remember when I tasted this and took it home, I fell in love with this. Now, I mean, I just thought this was delicious. I didn't taste it with these other wines, but I thought it was delicious with the Marinus. And so I'm going to go back and try that. And maybe, Jill, you'll share with us a little bit about this spread and how it's made and what it's made out of.
So we make it at our culinary center that I was referring to earlier, the Fork. And you know, I was going to actually get into the conversation here that sometimes, you know, the cheese and the wine, while it's great, they're great, they just need like a bridge component. And what I find I want with the Mariner, whether it's Bay Blue or Original Blue, is I want that bridge. And I'm looking for something a little bit, I want a different texture, and I want something that's got a little sweetness to it. And the OB date spread is a great example because of the dates and the roasted shallots that are mixed in with the blue cheese. It just like makes this like
it's so
level thing. It's so good. It's so delicious. Where I had been heading before I tried that was chocolate as a bridge. And I know that sounds crazy to many of you. You know, you expect chocolate to go with wine maybe, but chocolate and blue cheese, what? You know, but I think that, so milk chocolate I love with Gouda and Bay Blue, but then Original Blue screams for just something that's got some sweetness to it, but a nice level of bitterness. So I think that our next tasting, we're gonna have to include some chocolate in the box, Nikki, so that we can play with that with these great wines. But I think that's just what I'm almost experiencing here with the Original Blue date spread, is that the dates take the whole tasting experience to a different level.
It's delicious. Well, Sarah, how about, should we just open it up and hear some, everybody? Would that be too much mayhem, or?
We can try. Everybody be on your best behavior. Here. Let me see if I can get everyone unmuted.
You're like Oz. Sarah's upstairs in her office and she's like Oz. She's gonna.
So good.
If I can get everybody unmuted at the same time.
I think my
Buddy was he was a good dog.
And people can unmute themselves too.
Hey!
She said
He was too big.
Hi, welcome to like Mike.
All right. Yeah, maybe we'll go back to muting. Give us a little hand wave. Hi. Yes, we can hear you well.
he's still on the family.
Does anybody have a great combination?
They can use the hand raise, and we can unmute them.
Everybody's unmuted at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to thank
Thanks
you
for Father's Day.
fabulous tasting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wine together.
Thank you.
Our camera wasn't working, but we heard everything. Everyone is unmuted.
All right. And then come back
I
and
want to thank you for this.
Thank you. Turn off Kenny's camera.
I heard a little bit of that. What I really just see is a lot of happy faces, which is the most important thing. And so I since it's hard to hear with everybody, you guys put up your, I'm very curious to know if if there's like particular pairing that we didn't think of. Like I haven't tried the Chardonnay with either of the blue cheeses. I want to be open-minded. I want to try that. I don't know how that'll work, but I'd be really curious to know if somebody's got something that they think works really well.
I tried the Chard with the Bay Blue, and I thought that was a really nice combination.
I'm gonna do it right now. Did you try it with that cracker with, what did you call the cracker with the cherries? I always forget what they're called.
Oh, the Artisan Crisp.
does anybody else want to raise their hand and chime in about what they liked? I'll unmute you. Patricia, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that we're big Dry Creek fans. I think my UPS driver thinks I'm an alcoholic is how much wine I get from you. But this was really a lot of fun, and I love the cheese, and I would love to be more involved with your cheese. Do you have a cheese club?
Well, we don't have a cheese club, and kind of like the wine situation where, most wineries are not shipping in the summer months because of heat. But if you get a case of wine in November, it's no big deal if it sits on your front porch for a day. Cheese, not so good. So we will work with you. We have a great team at our retail desk, including Nikki sometimes, but where they will work with you to order on a monthly basis, and we can schedule the actual deliveries so that you can expect them. We can be assured that they get into refrigeration.
We're in Santa Monica, and it's harder to get your wine. Your cheese, sorry.
Well, please, give us a call or send me an email, jill@pointraisedcheese.com, and I'm happy to direct you to retailers. I love it when folks, buy from us direct, but I love it even more actually when people buy from our retail partners out there in the marketplace. But I mean, just to let you know, Gelson's and Bristol Farm, both in your area, sell our cheeses.
Delicious, just delicious. Well, I have to say, without fail, when we're past this terrible pandemic and we're all able to get together, we really need to plan a joint winery, Point Reyes cheese, tasting, tour, luncheon.
I like a field trip. How about that?
We need a field trip. We do. And I don't think it'll probably happen this year based on how things are going, but gosh, we sure hope so in 2021. And so everybody who's joined us today, of course, will find out about that, and hopefully we can get that scheduled, even before the beginning of the year, and we can send out an announcement so people who are from out of town can plan around it. Because I love it. We have a saying here that happy vines make great wines, and it's really, really obvious that you have happy cows and you're making great cheeses.
That's right.
And so I really appreciate your time, Jill, and we so appreciate having you serve our wines at your place called The Fork. Do you call it a restaurant?
No, it's a culinary and educational center, and everything that we do year round is by appointment. So
Okay. Well,
Give us a call. But if you mention Dry Creek Vineyards, you'll get special VIP treatment. So.
Hey, did you guys all hear that? You guys all hear that? Make sure to drop names.
Jim and Jill.
Hi.
This is the Harris Group. Thank you very much. It's unbelievable doing a wine taste like this.
Oh, so fun.
I'm so glad to see you all. We so appreciate it. Oh my gosh. Well, we need to come together like times like this, right? I mean, it really is. It's a reminder of how important food and wine and camaraderie is. And there's Mike Martin. Is that your new house?
That is me and Jill, and we just hope both of you come back again. We don't want this to be the last time.
I know. Well, we can do it again. We absolutely can.
And I thank you for this fabulous tasting. To be away from all of this has been hard when we moved to Colorado, and it was like being back home. Thank you.
Oh, great.
You guys. Well, Jill, unless you have anything else to add, I think I'm going to get done with, I'm going to keep eating here, but I was
just going to say, I have 4 bottles of wine to drink now, so.
We just want to say thank you also. Thank you guys. It was a cool time.
We're going to be with you guys next week.
From the great,
July 4th, we'll be out there at the Dry Creek Vineyard for a tasting. So
you're
you guys
on Saturday, July 4th?
Yeah.
And you already have an appointment, right?
Yes. Yeah. So this is Vicky and Ethan.
So Robert will be working that day, and you'll have a great time. That makes me so happy. We just reopened 3 weeks ago, I think, and it's like thrilling every day when we see people on the property, and I'm so glad you're coming out. That's awesome.
Yeah,
we'll
great.
be staying in Guilford for a month. So we're the day we're coming to see you. We're going to see Josephson and Peterson also, and then we're going to come by you guys and have a nice time, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Remember, wear your masks when you get here. We're doing all social distancing and everything. Once we get you guys seated at your tables and stuff, though, you can take them off. And I think that we're having a really good time on the property while managing to be safe and practicing all social distancing. So it should be a great time. We're looking forward to hosting you on the 4th. And Kim and Ashley and I are going to talk tomorrow to talk about exactly what we're doing for 4th of July weekend. So hopefully something.
You know what? You guys will find this funny. So many of you, I saw the Davenports pop up quickly.
Yeah, we're here. Hi.
Some of you know my father, who, Jill, like your dad, my dad's actually 80, but in his retirement, he's become very passionate about music, and he plays in a couple of senior citizen bands. He plays Dixieland Jazz. And before the COVID-19 situation, he had a gig here at the winery for July 4th, and we were so excited because it would have been the perfect music for July 4th, Dixieland Jazz. Yeah. But unfortunately, all of the members of the band, while they're all very, young and spry, they are of ages that are, kind of higher at risk. So they are not going to be able to perform next weekend. So we're kind of bummed. I know. He's really disappointed. But maybe we'll figure out a way to, I don't know, play a tape or something.
I'll find the Dixieland Jazz station on Pandora, and we'll do that.
That would be good. Yeah, because he's going to walk over, Robert, and check out.
I totally know he's going to walk over.
My dad lives directly across the street from the winery, so he visits, pretty much on a daily basis and says hi, and it's great. But anyway, well, gosh, everybody, thank you so much. We all appreciate it. And if you haven't,
want to thank you from Maine. Thank you from the state of Maine.
Oh, where are you in Maine?
We're in southern Maine.
Inland from Kennebunkport.
Oh, great.
So my family has a home in Brooklyn, up near Blue Hill.
Yeah.
We've sailed up there.
So that's what I've done every summer for 30 years. I've gone to Brooklyn for the first couple of weeks of August, and this is the first year I'm not going. So sad.
We've sailed from Maine to South America, and the best place in the world to sail is Maine.
Isn't that Eggemogan Reach just spectacular?
Yes.
Penobscot Bay is the best.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, sounds like we have a lot in common. Well, anyway, everybody, thank you again, and check out Jill's website. The Point Reyes Farmstead cheese is a fabulous website. I think you'll really enjoy it. You'll learn a lot about cheese, and everybody have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your tasting.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers, cheers, cheers,
Thank
cheers.
you.
I might just sit in the cellar for the
Thank
next.
you.
Thank you.
Even though you come see us, we see you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.